right, now we're good to go. It's a pleasure to welcome you all here. So it's great to see we have a full room with us today, and we've noticed that there's more interest in Blau amidst investors, and we're really happy about this. And of course, that increases our level of responsibility, obviously. But the Blau team has been doing quite a bit, but the most important is that we've been delivering our results. And I think that's the most important. And I just wanted to give you this work on this observation here. I'm Mateus Fujisawa, the investor relations at Blau, but we're here live at MZ Arena in São Paulo with the team here. Uh, Present, as well as everyone that's watching us online. And I'm going to quickly cover the events agenda. So we'll start off with Marcelo talking about our strategy in the short and long term. Then we'll have Amado talk about commercial aspects, Wilberson will talk about R&D, and Milton will talk about the industrial operations. Soon after, we'll have a short break, a 20-minute break, and then we'll move on to having Roberto talk about Protea. Then finally, Douglas will wrap up with the financial management. And of course, at the end, we'll have our Q&A time. So without further ado, I would like to call Marcelo Hahn, the CEO and founder at Blau. Uh, Blau Day to all of you, and I want to thank you all for being present, as well as those that are watching us online. We're here right from the MZ Arena, and today we're going to talk about our strategy in the short and long term at Blau. I'm Marcelo, the CEO and founder of the company. So this is a slide here about the past. Here you can see a bit of our first 5 years. And I want to talk about the company's DNA because I think this is an entrepreneurial company, innovation technology focus. We are recurringly investing in this, and I believe it's one of the companies in the sector that most invests. And here you can see something that's also really important. It's a company that knows how to take advantage of opportunities. So here you can see within the past 5 years, basically, that we doubled the size of our business with revenue coming from the public market. And this was thanks to the investments the company worked on in the past. So we were a pioneer in a lot of things, and we were the first company to work with hemo derivatives, and we were also the first company to locally produce alpha poietin. And all of these opportunities came up with the results you see today. So just to show you what the company has become from 2014 to 2019, when we jump and hop into 2024, we can see the company transform itself once again. So the company knows how to take advantage of opportunities, and in this interim, we went into the capital market during the pandemic. We were able to take advantage of that opportunity. Very few companies were able to, especially in the pharma sector. And here we're showing you the company's transformation, focusing its business in the private market. And this is due to the challenges we had during the pandemic, lack of products, the exceptionalities due to the Federal Court of Auditors with the release of drugs without the registrations. And here you can see what the company did to keep up this growth. So we're always searching for strategically finding ways to take advantage of business opportunities to grow the business wherever we can. In this interim, we shifted a bit of the company's focus. Back then, we were a company that was really focused on the local market. We were a Brazilian company focused in the Brazilian market. But then we started to plant some investments in other places. So we started investing in subsidiaries. First of all, our subsidiary in Colombia, then Uruguay, and then subsequently. So today we're present in over 6 countries. Argentina, Uruguay, Chile, Colombia, Peru, and sorry, there is technical issues with his mic. So we're searching for revenue in these places. The company has been investing quite a bit, and of course, we invest a bit more even than other companies in the sector in these areas. And on the other hand, results are not immediate, right? So it's an investment that we're working on with a focus on the long term. So we're starting to capture what we can see. Sorry, let me just shift microphones here so it can be a little easier. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so getting back here, it's a company that'll start now with attracting the revenues from these subsidiaries that we started investing in the past and what's growing and ramping up. But another thing that I think is really important also is that the company starts having more recognition as a regional company, which brings in new opportunities for our business with new products to Latin America. So we were not an attractive platform before, but now we become more attractive when we can bring these products and offer this platform to sell these products all over Latin America, which really brings in many opportunities for our business. Then, after the IPO, we also shifted a bit of our ambition with being a regional company. Now we want to be a global company, we want to be a perpetual company. These were some of the pillars we had as we've moved into the capital market, really being a global and perpetual company. And um, this really brought in the strength and really helped us achieve these objectives. So here you can see the capacity to react quickly. As we suffered a bit with the pandemic, as there were a lot of drugs coming into the market without the necessary registrations and documentation, which contaminated the overall market and brought many challenges because these drugs started coming into the private market as well. But then the company tried to defend its rights in the Brazilian framework, regulatory framework, and we kind of knocked on everyone's doors, trying to avoid this disruption in the Brazilian regulatory framework. And then we kind of struggled on our own in regards to this, but in this quick movement, we were able to reverse this during with the Supreme Court. We had two situations, one with immunoglobulin and alpha-poietin, and we eliminated this situation, which in the future could bring in problems not only to us but the entire regulated market in Brazil. And here you can see a bit of the macro scenario where after the pandemic we started suffering um, with a bit of degradation in the market, high interest rates, and we started seeing companies that had judicial recoveries and requesting Chapter 11 processes. We saw the situation with Lojas Americanas that was very difficult in the market, and basically we had to implement some different initiatives, which thanks to the fact that we're a company that has financial responsibility, low debt levels, we were always really focused on the quality of our investments and the quality and of the sales, and we've always been very concerned with guaranteeing the financial capacity of these clients. And so also financial discipline was a major point of concern for us at the moment. And that's where we, after the pandemic, we acquired Bergamo. We had a we brought in all of Bergamo's past with high stock levels, expensive stock levels. We found a company with real high stock levels and really expensive stock levels. And so an idle production plant, a lot of import products, a lot of opportunities. But basically, we brought in lots of opportunities with Bergamo, and there's a lot of exclusive products which actually levered our retail area. And I'll talk about this up ahead. But what did Blau do? Well, restructure the company, and we also shifted our business processes. We unified our activities. We internalized some services. We implemented our SAP in Bergamo as well. We had a quick turnaround and we started feeling the impacts of this. So now we're going to show you even more benefits from this operation, and I'll discuss this up ahead. So then the situation also with the pandemic, with high stock levels, we had a lot of working capital days, really expensive stock. So during the pandemic, with scarcity in the products, we had a lot of opportunities for companies that were producing these patents, and we had to keep our operation active, right? Because it was really difficult to work with all the lockdowns and airports, freights, and so much things impacted, right, by the pandemics, right? So that's where we really demonstrated our efficiency, renegotiating with suppliers and bringing new opportunities to our business. We also improved our stock days with S&OP and Milton Steam, as well with operations as they brought in improvements in productive aspects. So we're going to discuss all of this up ahead, but what we can say is that it definitely brought in a lot more efficiency, and then now we're bringing in the results. So we have revenue, an all-time high revenue, an increase of 23% in the last 12 months, thanks to the improvements in costs, operational improvements, a new go-to-market strategy with the three business units. So we were more focused on this. We improved our gross margins, and um, we didn't get back to the best years, but we know we're still carrying a lot of investments that still haven't brought in results and returns. But in the future, they'll also contribute towards this. So our EBITDA margins gets better. There's still a path to go through to bring in the EBITDA margin we desire and the net income as well. So despite having very good results, the company believes that there is the capacity to bring in even better results in the future as we had in the past. We know the market's really challenging. We're experiencing a very challenging moment, and we're going to discuss this up ahead. So we kept our capex investments, stock reductions, operational improvements, and also free cash flow generation, which kind of which we had in the best year in the company back then. So then also about financial education, zero point 0.2 upon the EBITDA in the company, paying off our debts and keeping up cash in-house. So basically, what's going to be a priority for 2025 is the commercial execution, and we've been searching for ways to increase the market for mature drugs. And so, in some cases, according to IQV, we actually made the market grow. In other cases, our market share grew a lot, and so our penetration in the market has grown a lot. And all of this is due to real high quality drugs, tradition, and reputation with efficiency and safety and best costs, right? So we have a major operational scale and we have very competitive prices. So all of this gives us um, this major potential with one-stop shop, a lot of SKUs, which allows us to also sell our products uh, and introduce our products quicker than other players. We also see the aesthetics market grow a lot. And with this acquisition of Bergamo, we also brought in a uh, another very relevant product, which is where we have two brands of this botulinum toxin, and Bergamo brought in a lot of exclusive products as well. So these are like the unique, similar products. These are all products that were abandoned by third parties, but then they were sometimes the only manufacturer, and we took advantage of this. These drugs are normally sold at the drugstore at the same POS, and many of them are prescription only. So we start getting demand as well to increase the sale of these products at the POSs. What's important to mention here as well is that not only has this contributed to our sales in retail, but all of the other products as well. And the main focus here is that we've had is to have our own team, our own marketing for each business unit. And this is an area that's also been growing quite a bit. We're really excited about the investments in R&D, aesthetics, retail for the next few periods. Then the increase of capacity and productivity. We're investing in 3 productive lines at Blau, São Paulo, 1 productive line at the headquarters, and the idea with the company is to have the productive capacity to service the increase in demand in our business, not only in Brazil but in Latin America up until 2028. So we have this plan, and actually before we start migrating to Pernambuco, which is going to be the company's new objective. We're investing in Pernambuco, and Douglas will talk about this up ahead a bit more with the timeline of these investments we'll have. So, what are the main priorities we have? Well, we have the turnaround with Bergamo, and we're really focusing on that. So, today we're producing about five, 4 or 5 Blau products within Bergamo, and the idea is that we'll start producing 15. So, we're producing all of the Leo-affiliated products and also the solutions, and that will really provide some relief to our production plant in Calcaia, which is for oncology, and it'll give us a greater deliverable capacity. So when we reduce the turnaround time, we'll improve the efficiency at Bergamo, and then, of course, bring it into a cost level that we have within Blau's operation. So we plan to work on this operation 100% and really focus on this and also take advantage of the tax aspects. Bergamo not only brought in operational advantages with a oncology plant, but also new products and this tax situation as well that we can take advantage of quite a bit. And we have good opportunities to work on. And then finally, our strategy for 2025 is to keep up a capital structure that's really defensive, keeping up with the investments according to our cash generation. So we don't plan to spend more than what we're generating as cash. Of course, we have to keep our eyes open to any possible M&As or other opportunities, of course. But right now, at the moment, it's not something we're thinking of for 25. But we're always open to opportunities. Then here, I'm talking about the fundamental aspects in the market to support our growth. So the first thing we have here to support our growth is the aging of the Brazilian population. So we see recurring data on the news saying that the population from 2024 onwards starts really becoming a population that has more people above 60 years old. So it's a generation that's getting older. And a generation that's becoming older consumes more drugs. And then another thing that's also impacting is the early diagnosis, which increases the treatment time. You start treating yourself a lot way before than when you discover the disease in a terminal phase, right? So another situation that's also occurring is that Blau is really involved in oncology and biotechnology. This is one of the markets that's most growing among all, and every day you can see that they're launching new molecules, especially immunotherapies, genetic treatments, and that's what Blau's involved in the future. So it's a growing market, and Blau's directly involved. So We've also been working in a very efficient manner in mature portfolios, as we showed you back there. You can see the hospital area in the company representing about 70% of the company's revenue. It grows 35% in the last quarter. And you can see the capacity we have to increase our share. Um, so in some cases, we're increasing the size of the market, but in others, we're increasing our share. So this is why it's so important to be on the field working on this. And Amado's our commercial rep director, and he's going to talk about this later on. But we're also reaping the benefits of everything we've been investing in with R&D. So we have a team of 225 people, and Buberson will talk about this as well. But besides all of the investments in biotech, we also invest a lot in other areas with synthetic drugs, simpler biologicals, and the company has been launching many drugs. So we've been really reaching an all-time high with solutions and launches, and this is something that's going to keep growing from now on. So the company has invested a lot, and we really believe in the future of our business. Another area that's been growing a lot is aesthetics and retail. I've talked about this a bit now within our R&D. We also, with our system, which is Inventa, we have projects to launch drugs in retail for retail and also injectables for aesthetics. And so we see major trends from a regulatory perspective when it comes to treating injectable products for aesthetics as if they were drugs. So we see the regulators all over the world more concerned with these products, and it's a major opportunity for Blau. Although we're a little bit late with the launch of these products, we've seen a major opportunity for local production. We have tons of experience with injectables, and the other opportunity is that we'll have more margin with the local production. Um, and so we're really confident about this with the aesthetics and retail. Uh, we also have a business plan with 10 collection centers for plasma, and and Roberto's also going to explain a bit more on the plasma market around the world. And so these are the pillars for growth in 2025. Um, and these are the ones that are really going to support our growth of the business. So the first thing I want to call your attention to is that the company does not disclose any kind of guideline. Um, this is a exercise that we've been working on. We have the coverage of the 8 greatest investment banks in the country, and the analysts have this perception for the future, this plan for the future, but we also got the average for this of this diagnosis they worked on, and here we have a average consensus. Uh, and so if you look at the company results annualized in the third quarter, you'll see we're very close to what the market expectation is. So this is basically just demonstrating that analysts are really in line with the company's results, and we're delivering what the market hopes for. And so and expects, and we're very close to meeting the market's consensus. So we have a full year of 24 and 25 to get there, but uh, we have um, variations in our country, of course, all the time, right? So when there's a war, we're impacted or suffer quite a bit. If there's geopolitical issues, we're hindered. Internal political aspects, tax framework issues, government fiscal liabilities and responsibility, loss in value of our currency, etc. We suffer quite a bit from many different fronts, but this is a concept. Like if everything works, we have the conditions to deliver this, and we're really in line with the consensus. So long-term priorities, we talk about how the most important thing in our business are the investments in biotech with the monoclonal antibodies, which is really where we're betting most, and that's where we're gonna really shift the whole level of our business with um, important achievements, an addressable market that's really high, and we get the opportunity also to perform some out licensing, which is granting other companies around the world with the possibility of selling these drugs all over the world. So Blau has this ambition of being a global company and selling its drugs through other labs around the world.
So the monoclonal antibodies is the most important for the company. This is the most disruptive project we have at the moment as the company, and it will take us next level. We are ambitious about launching these products as soon as we get the patents. So we're running against time here to deliver as quickly as possible. Soon, Wooderson will talk about the deliverables for the monoclonal antibodies, but we're excited and we're really rushing to make it happen. So I would say the whole company is engaged towards these results. The increase of our productive capacity. As I mentioned before, we have been investing in 4 different productive lines, 3 in Blau, São Paulo, 1 in Blau, Cotia. The first one starts with the operation in Pisau, Bemil, which is our Pernambuco manufacturing plant. So a lot of people think that we are moving towards our Pernambuco production just because of the fiscal benefits, tax cuts, or taking the company to another place and consolidating our operation. But that's not what it's all about. It's important that I tell you that the Pernambuco manufacturing plant will also reach out to all of the demands of health agencies around the world. So the strictest, the FDA, American, and European health agencies. So with the Pernambuco plant, we're not only going to bring more production, but also the possibility of exports. Besides this, the idea is to produce new products that Blau doesn't produce yet. So for aesthetics markets, for retail markets, and so many other markets that the company has the opportunity to addressable markets. So it's important that we continue with investing and increasing our productive capacity. Verticalizing our strategic products. So we continue to aim at verticalizing all of the products we develop. We are always in search of the best opportunities. A lot of times, the best opportunities are IFA production. In the case of the biologicals, it's important that we bring that production local, not only because we bring the know how of that production, but we also brought in the gains and margins of our business with that. So we continue to bring new molecules that we will be producing in our IFA plants. Our international expansion. We continue investing in our branches. We are ambitious about moving into Mexico with Blau Mexicana, where we have been investing as well. We also, as I mentioned, have the opportunity to, well, now we're bringing a series of different license one products, so products to Latin America, which is something new for Blau. It's something we have signed a few agreements to bring and expand products into Latam beyond Brazilian borders. We have a new platform, a regional platform, the Latam platform, and expanding into Europe and the US, obviously. So our focus is to increase our operation in the United States with Emarus, collect more plasma, and improve the management. We start to contribute to Prothea's management. We see the results improving for that branch of the company, and at some point, we will convert our investments into participation and partnership and start recognizing the data of the company. That's the future of our business. We believe there's a lot of synergy between what we're doing in the US and Europe and Brazil. And who knows, in the near future, we'll be able to have an operation which synergizes better with the 3 businesses. We have the opportunity also to sell our products through Prothea in Europe, and it's something that we will start working with soon. I'm going to call Amaro now to talk a little bit about the sales management of the oncological and blood specialities, and thank you for your attention through my conversation. Good morning. I would like to thank you for coming. It's obviously an honor to be here representing Blau's sales board and sharing some of the indicators and some of the special results, which are the fruit of a well executed plan. I think we arrive here to share some great numbers with you, numbers that represent what this year was to Blau, a challenging year, but a year where we saw some big obstacles to overcome in a challenging market, a very competitive market with lots of players. But I think that thanks to the correct strategy which was adopted, we seem to have lost his sound. Okay, so with important competencies and features, Blau has been very capillary and has an assertive management. Market penetration, which has been more focused on publicity and marketing, and with these two features being strengthened and unified, that was a main point to bringing in the skills to the business and concentrating what the market needed, which is good penetration together with our stakeholders and also building the brand concept. Blau had a good sales potential, but a lack of this participation with the opinion makers. And when we unified these two different arms of the business, I think there were serious gains. So structuring the commercial and sales department, which we were able to do through the market audits and understanding the potential of this. First of all, understanding the potential of this market and where we wanted to be. We restructured, resectoralized, and distributed our allocations from the quotas. So this allowed us to be more capillary and increase our presence nationally, which helped us to take the Blau concept into hospitals, especially private care. This allowed us to gave us a lot of name and made us more notorious. And together with the unification, we were able to define goals and organize a better and more consistent sales policy, which is based on the mix concept. So when we understood from a SWOT perspective what are our strengths and weaknesses, it became clear to us that a company with one of the biggest portfolios in the market needed to lead the way in this scenario as well. That's what we were able to build together in this very democratic environment in the company. This wasn't a project which was purely sales. It was an integrative project. We were able to bring in S&OP, industrial, financial departments, R&D, regulation and regulatory department, everything that was from the legal departments contributed a lot to this. Our IT department brought tools which allowed us to have artificial intelligence and made us more notorious. So unifying this process as a team, I think, is the result of this success and also responsible for the success. In terms of our strategic execution, we were able to change the mindset for the whole team, understanding that it was important to be present in institutions. So not only having a Blau product through the distribution, but that business also be piloted by our team, that we be leading the way there. So pharmacists, infectologists, and physicians and oncologists needed to be led by our team and understand that our brand really has a competitive outlier in terms of business. And the way we deliver our services makes a big difference in that market. So executing that policy, strengthening the brand, also brings us the possibility of creating a model for the business. How does this work? there is a movement of verticalization in Brazil where hospitals are able to concentrate operations in big networks. So, Rede D'Or, Happy Vida, Unimed Brasil, those big chains which lead the way, and it was important that Blau be a name in that context. So, blaze the path so that when the monoclonal antibodies arrive, when the products, the high added value products arrive, which are more conceptual, that this ecosystem, this environment be similar to Blau. So this relationship had to be very well um, planned, and this has also been symbolic of the hospitals wanting the Blau brand and wanting our pipeline in negotiation because we have a framework of products and lead the way in the oncohematology market, which is one of the markets which most grows in Brazil, as our CEO just told you. So when I go into management, this remodeling of management was obviously very important. It gave us tools connected to simulating the business and where we are able to have an autonomous sales force, autonomous enough to close on deals, to negotiate, and managers then would come in and work and operate on the big accounts. So when we segmented our channels and increased our penetration through a more capular framework, as well as improving the mix of products in a more sustainable way, we were able to be a desired brand, a desired name, with more and more participation in institutions, in private and public sector. But our growth, as you'll see in the subsequent slides, the following slides, has been also in the private sector, which is a more sustainable market. Hospitals use medication every day, and the public sector is where we have our super avid, where we want to or to choose accounts which are attractive to us. So when I tell you a bit about how we strengthen the brand, today we are present in the biggest events, in the biggest medical congresses in the country, with our team, with our brand, also sharing our pipeline and working on concepts, as well as visiting stakeholders that are present in the medical societies and strengthening the Blau brand as a brand which has a competitive outlier in this market, which translates into quality, trust, and tradition. It's a company where we don't have any recalls. It's a company that has a very low index of problems considering this market. Acceptability of the brand is very high. This brings us a certainty of quality and stability for a non-retail injectable market, which is really unprecedented and allows the hospitals to have more and more stability in using Blau medications and helps us obviously fulfill our mission of saving lives. So these are some of the events. EMO, which is a cutting edge event, the third largest in the world of its type. It happens also in Brazil. We were there with our stand. There, our team is, you can see the team there. Sobrafo and his Bach are also present in all of these big events. This is another example of a symposium where we had 400 people in a room listening to us. This is a little bit of the queue of people who want to come into our events because we're always discussing very relevant concepts and adding value to brands and business. This is the IMON, International Meeting on Oncology Nursing, with speakers and very high-named specialists in the sector. Besides this, the team also needs to add value, and value is having something to say. So our team is consistently being retrained and going through ongoing capacity building so we can ensure that we are taking the best practices to market. This is a recent example. Training with Dr. Renato Centroni. He is an oncologist and hematologist who is today a big name in the country and important to our sales force. This we call this cycle meetings, where in the beginning of every month, the SKUs, we look at SKUs, products, evolution, margin, market share, penetration. So the team today has the necessary analytical tools and AI tools that validate growth and the corporate goals. This translates in this slide. Today, Blau is present in almost 10,000 institutions, over 6,000 hospitals in Brazil, 2,700 public agencies, over 400 oncological clinics, and 400 centers of nephrology. This is very capillary. It's a brand which is present in all of the country. So you're only able to do something like this through a very serious effort in assuring quality, good practices, well, perfect practices in manufacturing, actually, and very, very strict regulatory adherence. So a company which has pharmacovigilance and R&D, robust industrial practices. You'll see that we have exponential growth also, which is an outlier. It's totally, it's double what the market grows in the rest of the non-retail market for all pharmaceutical industries, and that obviously doesn't come for free. It's the fruit of a very dedicated team and the support, the business support of a company with a multidisciplinary team, which is very well organized. And we like to say also that we're just getting started. This is our podium. So wanted to share with you some of the honor of what it means to be a market leader in the oncohematology market in Brazil. Blau is a company that is well renowned and is more than that only. It wants to be more and more of an outlier, bringing more and more tech, which is our DNA. So we're growing over 30% in 165 SKUs, which demonstrates our leadership in the market, in a very competitive market. You'll see in the next slides the size of the companies we are working with in this pipeline. One of the last launches that we had, when we think about capillarity and also understanding our role in the business, Blau brought in a medical device product. What's interesting in our structure is that being recognized by the oncohematological market means that we have DNA in the game, even though we have a vast portfolio with a lot of antibiotic therapy. Being recognized in oncohematology brings us different visibility in the sector, which is the sector that is most growing in the non-retail market. So we are not only in a strategic position, but we're also leading the way. So every time we bring business development products that are connected to the sector, our inclusion in the market is practically automatic, because you have the stakeholders and you have the medical community adhering to your product. This translates into a quicker negotiation and a better standardization. So consequentially, you're well seen in medical societies, and we're very close with BHHH, which facilitates our processes, not only private, but possibly with Conitec or with an incorporation of new technology, because those agencies, those medical societies are the ones that allow participation. And this is a bit of that of the machine behind it. And you say, Amado, how can the market grow 10, 12% and Blau grow 35%? How do you manage such growth? Well, we brought in the concept of intelligent negotiation, combos, where the mix of a better portfolio in the business and business simulators, the team, through artificial intelligence and through a program which our IT team developed, has autonomy to close on deals with institutions, assuring that this sales negotiation is adherent to our financial practices and also a better handles a better portfolio management SNOP, where we have a forecast today with better predictability, which doesn't grow more because we have the need for better investments today, and we would grow more and more. So the market has really allowed us a strong penetration, which allowed the company to look at investments and growth. So we were able to accelerate our plant in Pernambuco and our investment in these plants, which is really an amazing job that the administration has done. We know where the opportunities are. We know how we need to evolve to get there, and there's a clear roadmap. Our operational efficiency, thanks through the SNMP system, training and capacity building, bringing us closer to our clients, the monthly cycle meetings, and the recognition of that team. Today, we have been awarded. We also have the variable remuneration plan and the Acelera Blau program, where we also are able to push sales of these medications, recognizing what's interesting to us strategically, so the distributors can speed up our process for sellout. And this allows us to contribute in the consolidated to the company's consolidated revenue at a growth of 31% comparatively of this third quarter. ABO Hospitalar grows 35%. We went from 307 million to 413 million when compared to the last quarter. And here's the cherry on top. We're proud to say that, well, I'm proud to voice this slide. I think it's the most beautiful slide in the presentation, and it puts Blau as the first, well, leading the ranking of the national industry in the hospital retail sector. This is projected by IQVIA. They use IQVIA. They use the hospital purchase price as their indicator, and there's a deflator of 1.9 billion in results. They're great, big pharmaceutical companies, labs. We're talking here about the international market. These are very well recognized companies, and Blau is very happy to be the first leading the ranking in audited companies. All of these companies are audited, and this is, well, we're happy to lead that ranking. As if that wasn't enough, we're the 12th, only behind the biggest multinational company, the biggest multinationals in the world, with products that are the ones we aim to reach and are well on the way of obtaining. So when you look at the Blau horizon or landscape for growth, the idea is always to reach these levels and bring the MABs, the monoclonal antibodies, and the high level products. This is a strategic plan which is well defined. Where are we going, and how will we get there? So we focus on the strategic innovation and continuous innovation. We're building a strong, sustainable, a strong base on a sustainable growth wheel, and Blau has also increased its profitability in a consistent way, assuring our success in the long term for the organization, and you have all been an important part of that. Here are some of the factors, the solid factors which base that growth. Marcelo mentioned that there's the issue of populational aging. Immunotherapy is the market I most comment on, and early diagnosis today also facilitates these the use also the patents, where we are very aware of these opportunities in our presence with stakeholders. Those are the biggest signals, and our commercial department is one of the greatest indicators which shows us where we need to aim. Of course, we have finite resources, so we need to aim well. Which are the molecules we need to aim at? Where do we need to be present? So being working with these great potential with these highly potential professionals allows us to do this through mature molecules, in terms of the execution training of the team and the prediction and elaboration of robust contracts, which bring us better predictability, are more accurate, make us more market relevant, and pave the way to new standardizations. Artificial intelligence and those management tools allow us to become more and more autonomous, and also give us the certainty that we're able to negotiate in a sustainable way, in a long-term way in our contracts, and also solidifying the go-to market strategy, which is basically a summary of everything I told you about here. I want to call Wilberson and also thank you for your attention. I hope I can be at the next Blau Day bringing you even better numbers, because we believe we're on the right path and we're just getting started. Hi, good morning. I'm Wilberson. Thank you, Amado. I'd like to greet you all. Once again, it's a pleasure to be here again and to receive you once again at a Blau Day. And the idea is to talk about some of our initiatives in research and development, and how the company has been speeding this process up of reducing our time to market, and how we're going to connect that future to our present actions. So, including all of our platform for biotech, and also telling you some of our what's in the pipeline. So, as Amaru said, we're very aware of the external environment and of all the opportunities. The company has two big pillars now, as you know, as most of you know, in development. So, a platform for developing synthetic material, and also a platform of IFA's biotechnologicals and biosimilar equipment. One of the biggest efforts that we dedicate for developing medicine for our business units. So this effort has been developed strategically to reach our oncoemetic, aesthetic, and also a specific outlook to the retail market, which is one of our biggest targets as we move forward. Together with that, with the new horizons the company has been focusing on, and our strategies to make those possibilities a reality, as well as bring in as soon as possible new companies, new products. The company continues to invest in strategic possibilities, in regulatory possibilities, and also in capturing investments and incentives to speed this development pipeline up, and also launch new products which will impact the market with their upper hand and outliers, and also bring obviously cash generation by launching new products. So I think it's important. It's an important point to highlight when we talk about our strategies. They are well aligned with the expansion of our structures and our capacity for internal development. So I would like to share with you the conclusion of one of the biggest expansions we're going through now, which is the delivery of a pilot plant for biotech. The impact of a biotech power plant in a R&D place is to open room in the factories and in the manufacturing plants for These hi- new products, once the batches that are used for this development start to be manufactured in the pilot plants and competition starts receding. So, besides the biotech power plant, which we will be launching in December, which will help to catalyze and synergize all of the speed of development of new products, we also predict a pilot plant for synthetic medication. So this pilot plant also is has a specific outlook to the development and registry of products for retail. Once again, it brings autonomy and a gain in speed to the development pro- process and the reduction of our time to market. I think it's important to say that the P4 400 area is a factory which will be doing the three proteins and has gone through transformation recently to install a complete line of monoclonal antibodies in its production. This main change, a lot of you had the opportunity to follow and if you did not yet see it, you will see it. It helped us to impact what's most modern in terms of with IFA Biotechnological. So today this capacity will give us a upper hand for processing monoclonal antibodies of up to 3,000 liters of cell cultures. So just to mention, our biotech platform today is capable of developing locally, of producing large scale. And when we look at markets with, well, bigly, highly regulated markets, I think that's very important to say. We're taking care of our future today. And it's also important to highlight this because you're going to see in the next slides, we're going to start talking about with our monoclonal antibodies, which are the transformational projects at the company. When we look in general to our pipeline, as was well mentioned, Blau today has the capacity to develop IFAs, biosimilar, and synthetic IFAs as well, focused on a category of products for injectables, for use with injectables, and also further development. So today we're also looking at new opportunities of treatments, new combinations of medications, which will speed up and bring special products to market that go far beyond what we essentially do at the moment. Besides this group of products, we also have a group developing generic medications and health products and the aesthetic products. So we have an important groups of pre-aesthetic products being developed, and they obviously use all of Blau's scientific know-how, all of our know-how for the capacity of injectables to develop aesthetic injectables, and this is something which has been a priority for us, something which we have dedicated ourselves to in the company. Currently, we are also looking at about 100 products in the pipeline, all at different stages. And the idea is to move forward with this pipeline because every year a new set of projects can be added. As we launch products to market, we bring new products into the pipeline, and the process is continuous, always in search of registrations of new products and, well, R&D. All of this with the main goal of consistently developing technology and new products so we can annually launch novelties to the market and also contribute with the growth of the company.
When we talk about monoclonal antibodies, a lot of players want to work with these. A lot of companies search for the opportunities to work with this, but very few companies actually have the know how, the scientific and strategic know how, and the skills to make these ideas actually become projects. And these projects really reaching the market. Blau is a specialized company in this field of knowledge with a lot of experience in biotechnology. We've been in the segment for over 20 years, and scientifically, we are positioned in a basis where we're structured and ready to advance in this. When we talk about the four projects for monoclonal antibodies in the company, these four projects that are transformational, when you add them all up, they consider an addressable market of 6 billion reais. And then we have also distribution in the addressable market for each molecule. The project was coded as MDB12 with 3.9 billion, and 14 782 and 15 is 112 million. So this market looks towards Brazil, but we have projects that are global, really. They were developed and designed to meet requirements in high regulated markets, and this is the horizon that the company has been working in a very solid and consistent manner in this journey for development towards the Brazilian market, but also highly regulated markets and new geographies, including Europe. On this slide, we can talk about some of the molecules we're working with and how they've been getting new approvals and new referrals for treatment. The two first molecules are focused on immuno-oncology. The first one has major protagonism in the cancer treatment and currently has 16 indications for use. The second also is for cancer treatment with 12 indications. And then ahead of us, we have AMDB 14 with 5 new indications for use and 15 with a single indication for hemophilia with major impacts on people's lives every day, which is because it's a drug that can stop almost 90% of the bleeding for people that coexist with this disease daily. And this has an impact in the day to day lives of children and adults that's transcendental and intangible because they're talking about bleeding, and bleeding is serious. And of course, we have a product that is focused on this horizon of use. When we consider the most advanced project that we have in our program for development for monoclonal antibodies, AMD, MAB, we're already producing the IPA. It's a transformational project. It's a project that represents a cutting edge treatment, and it's a project that the company is already working on in house. So we have the APIs for this first antibody that's produced within P400, and we're still developing this and advancing this development program as we've also completed the development of the drug. So today we already have this antibody as a drug, not only as an API, but also the drug continues to advance because with this drug, we're really able to start this important phase with experimentation in a preclinical and clinical phase. For this project, we'll start our preclinical trials in March by the end of the first quarter. This represents an important milestone in the history of the company and in the history of the country because it's really where we're going to be scientifically impacting Blau, the country, and financially impact the company's business and also the society when we expand access and bring these drugs to the Brazilian market and once again to new geographies, including highly regulated markets. So we're starting the preclinical phase in March 2025, and then after we have the clinical trials for the project, and this is a molecule that will expire its patent in 2028. The company's project is to have this registration and along with this, also alongside the patent expiry, we want to be one of the newcomers, right? Other players are looking at this molecule, but it's a highly complex market, and Blau is going to be operating in a very dedicated manner with a major know-how and a strategy to work on these projects with a multidisciplinary way of operating consistently with this day and night, and so that we can really be one of the first comers because this is a scenario we're working on. And so the other 3 antibodies are on track. Um, and moving on to the group of projects we've already been working on We have this produced in P400, and we have alpha protein. It's an important project. The API is registered. Uh, and so now, in 2025, we're going to start the phase one clinical trial. This is an important milestone, and it's a molecule that has major impacts in the country for the company's business. And with this verticalization process, we'll have the product being commercialized in Brazil with our own API as we think about a launch in 2028, soon after the phase three clinical trials, and as well as when we get the approval from health authorities in the country and other projects, because it's a project that's been looked at and considered for global markets as well. And then within our biotech platform, we also have the uh, bioaggression, and these are clinical trials that are completed, phase one as well. It's starting off now in 2025, and for these molecules, we're only going to need phase one clinical trials with a horizon launch for 2026. And these are the projects that represent our verticalization chain, where the development, production, and all of this is done in a national territory with the opportunity to launch this product in Brazil, Latin America, and new um, environments that the company's been looking at when it comes to these molecules. So, advancing now, in July, the Ministry of Health brought in another legal framework to the country when we talk about PDPs, and the main objective is to strengthen the public private partnerships. And in addition, they created this new program within this new legal framework, which is development and local innovation. And that's where the public company, and when it's still in a development phase, can partner with a private company and advance with this process. Um, and so up ahead, we should have this a drug converted in a PDP, where the purchases will start being incorporated in this process. So we're advancing with three public partnerships, and we have good expectations. And as we complete this process, if everything works well, the company will have the opportunity to get 500 million reais to conduct studies on some of these projects, which is considered a risk division and also a major opportunity that we have to transform this development journey into purchases that are directed through a PDP for the public market. So this is important work that's been done in the company connected to this new phase we're experiencing, and the industrial economic complex we have here in the country. When we're talking about our projects for monoclonal antibodies, these are global projects, and as Marcelo mentioned, there's strong work done by our new business team as we consider out licenses, so licensing products for other regions, other markets. And this is a horizon that has been taking place consistently, and that will provide major fruits in the future and allow for the returns on investments of these projects really to achieve the magnitude they represent for health treatments, and also the desire to expand access worldwide. Advancing, we have the development cycle that is ongoing, and you go through different assessment funnels until you reach the point where you are developing the products and uh, generating dossiers and submitting this to the right to the health authorities. And so, if you do this consistently, we're advancing in this journey to launch products every year. And with this objective, we can bring in this vision of the horizon of submissions for developments that are made at Blau. And so in 2023, we had submissions in products that represented 300 million as an addressable market, a total addressable market. In 2024, we are expecting 2.1 billion in reais as submissions, and here we include a product that's brought in by the new business area, an important license that adds up to this number. And then for 2025, We have the products that are already developed and that will become new submissions in the next year. And we have this number that's about 800 million reais in submissions without losing track of all of the new initiatives for business that can add up to this addressable total market for 2025. So, developing products consistently so that we can have these launches every year and so that these can also contribute to this with the new products and really help the company. So in 2024, we were able to deliver the expected number of launches, so 700 million in the addressable market. And we have this group of molecules that were launched, like tizolumab, and it's an important product, as well as Joe Clark, as Amado mentioned, and this is a product that's really focused on the level of care, uh, and so we have, as a citizen, this is a drug that we also consider high complexity, produced in Brazil, and we're the only company to produce this drug in Brazil. Uh, so that adds up to 1.4 billion reais in a market that Blau will start accessing when it comes to new products. And so the future belongs to whoever has the courage to innovate now. And that's what Blau does. At the end of the day, Blau is an authority in biotechnology in the country. And so our structures, the accumulated knowledge and know-how throughout this 20-year biotech journey gives us the licenses and the strength to work on the monoclonal antibody projects, but projects that are even more complex in a very integrated way. And we hope to deliver to Amado in 2028 the products so that we can really set the path and really make sure everything is full swing with these products to be a complete success in the market for the health of the Brazilian population and the overall business in the company. So that's where we operate and that's what we're looking at in the future. And I want to thank you all for your presence. And now I'll call Milton, our operations director, as he continues with with his presentation. Good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be with you guys. Uh, Thank you for your presence. It's an honor and privilege. So, first Blau Day. I hope it'll be one of many. And how do you support all of this growth? Well, in Marcelo's view and Wilberson's view, the idea is really how we can talk about the industrial operational structures, right? So, our industrial complex in Cotia, the biggest complex we have, our API platform for biotechs, and as Iverson mentioned, our unit in São Paulo, our biggest unit, also where we have the biggest investments for next year. And we're investing in three different product lines. Blau Goiás, where we also produce carba uh, and we also have interchangeability for oncology at Blau in Caucaia and in Bergamo. So here we can see how we have to support all of our growth till 2028. And so in our complex, we can define the sizes of the batches and a more optimized productive route, as well as the Caucaia and Bergamo aspects. Then we have some other initiatives we've already started in this year, in 2024. And that's, of course, discussing our management model, looking at our commercial operations and finances, And we've been able to improve our productive routes, providing a lot of availability and improvement in our stocks, and also the optimization of some preventive maintenance, transforming um, hours of shutdown and productive hours, and we were able to increase the availability of the units produced and really improve the rapture that we've generated in our commercial team as they worked on excellent initiatives as well as leveraging the sales. And so also better management of the installed capacity as well as balancing out the products. So some of the products we used to produce in São Paulo we transferred to Cochia, and we can increase the size of our batches and also our costs and efficiencies. And so we were able to have an improvement in efficiency and transferring products and having more efficient routes. And we were able to get 25% gains in operational efficiency. But we've reached the limit where all of the possible improvements there would also be a bottleneck. So, to support the growth of the commercial teams servicing all of our exports area for Latin America, as well as the product launches, we need to invest in new areas. And so, while we don't have the P1000 project, we're expanding these capacities in São Paulo and Cochia, as mentioned by Marcel. And so, along with all of this, we have some challenges with manufacture, which is not exclusive to Blau, but to the entire market we're in. And the idea is that we'll always be aligned with our strategy and adaptability, with a focus on supporting all of this growth and also major alignment with our HR team, training and developing our professionals. Our greatest heritage are the employees, and we need to structure them more and more so that they get the know-how and operate these modern equipment, which is the industrial part at Blau. And so integration with the logistical and supplies area, the planning, S&OP, sales, and financial aspects, so that we can have an effective demand and also improve all of the costs with the manufacturer chain, and also expanding the perspectives on efficiency, really focused on the cost, processes, flow, and demand. What's the best productive route? How we um, align with the in alignment with the strategy, so that we can improve our margins and profitability in the company. And a great partnership with the IT team as well, bringing in online management um, for the productive areas. So we also have a 4.0 industry tool um, where you can map out the company as a whole when it comes to efficiency and operational flows. Um, and also the flow that's being produced in real time at the moment. Uh, this helps us make quicker decisions to correct and improve aspects instead of just feeding this spreadsheet and stratify the data. But now in real time on our cell phones, we can already understand what's the efficiency in each line, what's the operation like, and this tool has an artificial intelligence module where they analyze how different shifts operate. So why I have better efficiency in shift one, two, or three. And so we can monitor this with artificial intelligence and apply that to industrial operations as well. With this, we create a Blau manufacturing system where we can bring this integration that's based on three major pillars. The main aspect is operational efficiency based on flow management and efficiency, and automatically we improve the margins of the company. Then we also have a restructuring of the S&OP area to really focus on the commercial team, but that's also the vehicle used to direct the company as a whole. So more and more, we must have a forecast that's more up to date and bring this information into the factory so that we can plan better and buy better, and so that the manufacturing areas in quality and regulatory that are really in line with us so that they can support our growth. So these are important pillars, and what's most important is bringing in this uh, pull system, right? So we want to replenish the safety stock and guarantee we don't have any rupture or gaps in our supply. So we want to have the customer at the center of our operation. So as long as the customer is at the center of operation, they can't generate rupture from a commercial aspect. So that's why we have these three pillars here where we support all of the growth for innovation, the commercial teams, at the Onco Hemato business unit as well as the unit for Latin American growth. Our SNOP process is about planning to synchronize sales, operations, and finance. And differently than some companies that are only focused on sales and operations, we really understand that finance is an important aspect of this. We have to be in alignment. So we have a single integrated module for SNOP where you have a financial team, commercial and operations teams that are really aligning what's the best strategy for the company. So to give you an idea, we operated with a monthly SNOP with a 3-month vision, and every time we close the quarter, we have 12 new months. So we can foresee better, and we can also have more precision where we can plan in the factory, we can plan for the purchase of some inputs and ingredients that are more precise. And this is the model that Blau brought in so that we can support the growth in the manufacturing chain. And some benefits that SNOP brings in and that we've been reaping within Blau is integration and communication among areas, a reduction in the levels of stocks. We've been reducing these levels and consequently the costs and better organization as well in the production and logistical network, and we can start working in a more integrated manner and plan better. And I think that, as Amado mentioned, without planning, it's really difficult. So when you get the demand and you start building the safety stocks and you start having this cadence production, we plan better and we can service the logistical network better. So a better level of service with inventory costs that are better and more optimized, and also the reduction of the time frames for production as well. And these are injectable products that take 15 to 16 days for analysis. So we must always bring in these variables in house and always work with at least 30 days before to have this product available. And so this is the alignment we have between quality production, manufacturing, and commercial teams. So as we mentioned in the beginning, we've reached the limit of our installed capacity. So in 2024, we operated mainly with the identification of restrictions and working with bottlenecks. This is really difficult because we start limiting the commercial team, and and we can bring in some improvements. We also provide some support for growth up until 2028. So then 25 and 26. Uh, we can bring 48% more, and 27, 28 will be working on balancing out the sizes of the batches, formulas, and we have some interchangeability among the plants as well to direct and produce the economic and feasible batches. So depending on the size of the market, what's the size of the batch I can produce that's registered so I can be more efficient and so I can have better costs in the operation. So we have a lot of confidence in stating that to be able to support all of the growth from Blau in the 3 units up until 2028, all of the investments Blau's working on will bring a lot of safety and confidence to support our growth. And that's where we start aligning the issue with the Pernambuco project. So today we're really confident in saying the what the level of support is that we have to bring into the commercial areas so we don't generate ruptures and so that we can have a better year than 2025. Sorry, a better year, and that 2025 is the best year in our history. And operational efficiency at Blau really helps as our engine to promote competition. So we want to bring in efficiency and we need to breed this. We need to improve this, and tomorrow must be better than today. We have to have good alignments of a strategy and work on the internal growth at Blau so that we can be more competitive and really support this growth so that 2028 can uh, be a year where we launch all of the monoclonals. So thank you all so much for your presence, and I'll call Mateus now. Well, actually, I'm just coming here to let you know that we're going to have a break now. Take a rest, go to the restroom, have coffee. If you're online, please don't disconnect. We'll be right back. We have a lot to share with you guys, so see you soon. Thanks.
Hello and good morning. Are we ready to get back together? So I want to thank you once again for coming to Blau Day, and it's a pleasure to share with you here today. I'm going to talk about Aprotia and tell you about the Aprothia project. It's a project which Blau joined, and it's very interesting, and there's a great story behind it. So Prothia was born from a Sanquin plasma products breakdown. So this company was a Dutch company controlled by the Dutch government, and it was part of the Sanquin Blood Foundation. As you can see in the slide to the left, Sanquin started out as a blood supplier. It belonged to the Dutch Red Cross, and together with PEEB Plasma Industries Belgium, it started together with the Brussels Red Cross, and the fusion became Sanquin. Sanquin Industry had two different names: Sanquin Blood Foundation, which was the industrial branch. It was born in 2015 as if it was company that was 100% controlled by the Sunqueen Foundation and the Dutch Sunqueen Foundation. Its focus was basically on supplying and assuring plasma products, especially albumin and immunoglobulin, to the Dutch population, to the to the Dutch population. So its focus was a bit different in terms of reaching the market, the Dutch market and the Belgian market, and it also worked as a CMO for some companies. And a very important company was the Takeda contract that they worked on, and that contract ended up um, breaking down. Takeda internalized the production of a product called Sunrise. Sunrise, and it's a very interesting project developed by Sunqueen and then sold to Takeda. After 10 years operating, they sold or finished the process of outsourcing that, and Takeda internalized those products in the United States. With that, there was obviously a drop in revenue, and Sunqueen Foundation started to assess this process in the company, and then a, a group of the leaders led by a private equity, Israeli private equity, took over the control of the company, and Sunqueen Foundation continues to have 15% of that company. Last year, they did 317 million, 1,100 collaborators, and their plasma source and supply. They have also a proprietary supply of plasma, which assures 3 million. So those are two factories that I'll explain soon that are in Holland and Belgium, and they have the capacity for 3 million liters of fractioning, which is important capacity, and 1 million liters of purification, which would be for the final product. Blau made a convertible loan of 50 million euros, which allows us to, at the moment of that acquisition, acquire 20% of the company's capital. The plasma market, we've talked about this a little bit in different Blau days and other presentations. I know the investor relations team is always, hitting on this point. It's an important market today, doing about $30 billion a year, and it also has demonstrated consistent growth in the last few decades. We understand that growth will continue at the level which is historically about 7% CAGR. To the right, you can see two different columns. One focuses on the capacity for supplying plasma, and the other is the demand for plasma to supply all the immunoglobulin needs that we've seen over the years. The data comes from MRB, Wall Street, a specialized consultancy which does plasma with very precise data. So we see that ever since 2021, the supply of plasma in the world is unable to reach the necessary demand, market demand. We understand that that trend will continue on the rise for a series of reasons. Marcelo mentioned so the population that's aging, more early diagnosis, and it's also important to say that in the case of immunoglobulin, a lot of the treatment, for example, you take immunotherapy or a monoclonal antibody treatment, and you end up fighting the patient's immune system. You cure cancer, but create a secondary immunodeficiency. So a lot of times this patient is able to heal his cancer, but ends up having to treat for the rest of his life, um, with immunoglobulin for his immunological system for the rest of his life. It's important also that we talk about the industrial assets that this brings. This is the Dutch company where we see the fractioning of the upstream and purification of the downstream. It's in Amsterdam, and there's a 10,000 square meter plant. This is the Bugenhout Logistics Center in Belgium. And the second plant in Belgium, which I'll tell you more about, which fractions, and in Belgium we have only the upstream. So it takes plasma, fractions it to what we call folders, which would be the intermediary. With that intermediary is then taken to the Dutch plant in Amsterdam, and then you do the albumin and immunoglobulin. It's important that I highlight what I mentioned before. We have 5, 6 centers for collection in Hungary. Why Hungary? Well, few countries in Europe allow for plasma collection. Germany allows, Austria, the Czech Republic, and Hungary. There are discussions, obviously, in the European Union to expand this, but they usually bring us to the same dilemmas that we find in Brazil, not only in Brazil, but Latin America, about, the population is being explored. Will you or will you not remunerate the plasma collection? It's a dilemma we still see in Brazil and also in other countries, but due to this dilemma, few countries in the world collect or have the business of plasma collection remunerated, or there's a compensation where you can compensate the donor for his time, for his effort of donating the plasma. And Europe as a whole has a big plasma deficit. So the plasma excess that we see, well, in Germany, there's a good level of collection. Then there's a little bit left to take to France, and the rest of the plasma in Europe goes or is supplied by plasma in the US, where we have Imaros. The United States represents something about 60% of the global production of plasma. Here I can highlight the Belgium plant. If you look in the middle where it's occupied, there's this building P1 and the ethanol storage P2. Everything else is free for future expansion. There's an administrative office, and in a 45 square meter area, we're using 12,000. So we understand that this area, which is in Belgium, has a lot of potential for expansion. Maybe we can double that plant and bringing the whole process in house. So there's a lot of room for increasing capacity and growth in this area. Here are some photos of the plasma center in Hungary. It's they're nice centers, well located, beautiful, and they are stable enough to, I would almost call it a franchise model, because the company has an ability to open plasma centers at a very interesting speed. One center, which myself and Marcelo visited in the city, was ID'd by the local authority as a high volume center. So Hungary's regulatory agency said, okay, you have too much volume, open another center. So in the same city, 8 kilometers away, they identified another location, and 6 months later, there was a new center. The center is already operating. They broke the volume down, and they were able to capture more volume for donating plasma in the second center in the city of Zolnik, I think. So, as I mentioned, in Belgium, we have a lot of room for expansion. So that's room for expansion, capex, and future lines of production. But that main expansion is in the already existing plants. I'm going to invert the order. So here's the purification. Well, from 1 liter of plasma, you fracture, purify, and well, that's a simple summary of it, but you're able to extract an amount of protein from that plasma. So from every liter, in 2020, we would do 48% extraction. In our 24, and we'll probably reach 63% by 2025. So improvements in processes, better filtering, and these fine adjustments which allow us to extract more from every liter of plasma and bring more protein from that, which are the coagulation factors, albumin and immunoglobulin. On the other end, we have the capacity for fracturing and purifying. So those are the expansions that, with a limited capex, you don't need a lot of capex to, you don't need a lot of investment into this, but sometimes an extra reactor. But usually within the structure, you're able to increase in 60% the amount of fractioning and double the capacity for purification. Remember that the capacity for purification only is allowed in the Dutch Amsterdam plant. I also want to tell you about the turnaround now. So as we mentioned, this company was almost a state company. It was a public owned company, and it was also a company with a nonprofit. So we have a company which is controlled by a foundation that belongs to the Dutch government, and which was a nonprofit. And now we change the company, we refocus. So that story where the objective of the company was to supply plasma products for the market, the Dutch market and the Belgian market, continues to be the case, but now it needs to have profit, it needs to expand into new markets, and needs to bring new products. So it's a private company, which is working for profit and results. But when we turned this over, we changed governance, management. So now there's a consultative board, CEO, executive board. Before, there were people that were suggested by the foundation, and a lot of times the government. So the government would say the CEO of the company is X. And today, we're in this process of cultural change. We're talking about ownership, belonging. So before, people would say, I'm at the company. Now we're changing the culture and saying you belong to the company. You make a difference for the final results of the company, and you're the one who's going to bring us the numbers or the results. So meritocracy, optimization of manpower, qualification, training, incentives, all connected to the company's objectives, the objectives of shareholders and the council, and the biggest change, a profit-oriented company. The company is obviously there to generate results for stakeholders, shareholders, and the company is also. We start with a better cost control of expenditures, and we work on evolving and improving margins. Now we start with something very similar to what Milton said, but same thing with smaller scale. Milton has been managing, 65 plants. These are only with lots of lines. These are only 3 lines of products: immunoglobulin, albumin, and ecofact, and cofact, which are coagulation factors, but all focus on the same thing. So, operational efficiency, adequating the manpower, batches, SNOP, the same thing. There was a disconnect between what was being produced and the production said, okay, listen, you're producing for Finland, but we need to sell in Germany, so we have to, meet their standards. So there was a lot of a lack of there was a disconnect, and this is being solved. Total focus, optimization of capacity, batch size, and a lot of focus on this gain. So more protein per liter of plasma. And we also depend on the Hungarian plasma. So it's safe supply. It's where we assure quality. Hungary has potential for growth. So we have opportunities for organic growth and inorganic growth in Hungary. At the moment, we understand that volumes are safe. There's no need for that increase, but we're growing within the capacity of those 5 centers. But we've already mapped out where the next cities would be, where we would be able to build new centers and have the capacity to do so. And now remembering Amaro, go-to market efficiency and sales. It was a nonprofit company, remember, without the goal of having a strong sales department with a go-to market map model of expansion. So it was limited itself to the Dutch market and Belgian market. So change in leadership, change in team, change in culture, maximization and focusing of high added value markets, optimizing existing registries, and moving into new countries and cities. So the company, for example, sells through a distributor, but sells a small volume in Germany. They have their registries in Germany. Germany's next door. It's the same thing as saying, I'm going to sell in Belo Horizonte, I'm going to sell in Minas. So we're changing that focus, looking the higher added value markets. So how do I join a market? How do I reach that market? I have to structure a team, train people to show the product to the market. The product is known in some parts of Germany, in other parts not, but Germany's a great market. There are registries in Austria. There are no sales in Austria, or no sales in Italy. So the challenge now is to maximize the areas or geographies where we are registered and look at other European markets, which are interesting markets, and find or register in those markets. So not only Europe, but Europe, the Middle East, Asia. Asia, this is a company, a global company, and we can't also forget the US. The US recently, well, we're for 50% of the global immunoglobulin consumption in the world, and the highest added value for that. So obviously, the company's success depends on that. Going into the US, the short, medium term. How? Having a product that's ready, that is almost ready to go to the US. It's Cofact, which are the coagulators, and we would initially enter with that product and then take immunoglobulin. We also have the Chinese market. Chinese market is the largest market for albumin, and it's also the best paying market in terms of added value for albumin. So obviously that is in our target, mapping out a path to start selling and distributing that product in China. In terms of the sales department, as Amaru said, we're, new incentives, the correct remuneration plan, bringing new products the company has and is developing another product And I will make a small connection to Wilberson's presentation. We have a product, a monoclonal antibody for problems for hemophiliacs. So this would also be a product that in the future could easily, Prothea could also sell because it makes sense. It fills in quite well of the portfolio and scope. So another point are the sales to the main markets. Now, coming to a close here, here is a map and a position. What is our strategic position, which we understand Prothea and Blau can work on together. What is our go-to market map? First line, Brazil. Prothea taking care of plasma purification, delivers the product to Blau, Blau registers it, and sells it in the country. That's what we do for albumin. Latin America, albumin, immunoglobulin, Prothea supplies, and Blau works with those markets. We had different Prothea distributors in Latin America. Today, Blau distributes to all of those countries. There are lots of registers that were made, and some are being finalized. In Europe, we need to expand into new markets and optimize where we already have registry. Lots of places are registered but don't sell. In the United States, Emeros brings in supply, and then moving into the US, remember, you can't sell products in the US if they're not produced with American plasma. So Emeros um, matches well with this puzzle. And then the biggest market in the world in the sector, 50%, and China, Prothea already has conversations with China, but some medium term albumin in China as well. Thank you for your attention. I'll call Douglas up and he's going to continue. So one more time, thank you guys. This is a very important event for us in our corporate calendar. And I think it's one of our unique and valuable opportunities where the company can update you with the strategic plan. So I think that's the idea today. And I think that I hope that by the end of the day, you can update. So telling you about the financial performance and our perspective for 2024 and what we have along the way. So I think the main highlight here is consistency in executing the plan. I think it couldn't be different with a sales department leading the way, especially in the new business model, a new segmentation of BU. What does that mean? A focus, a perspective, and proximity with being closer to clients in the markets we're in. Of course, this brings results, and with the sales department bringing that into the company, that obviously encourages the organization. So as you saw throughout the other presentations, the company is ready to reach that demand to supply and deliver results. So the numbers speak for themselves. We come to the end of 9 months delivering revenue of 1.3 billion, which is practically the same as last year's revenue, but with growth of always above 30%. And as we've highlighted, that growth is sustainable and healthy. It doesn't come from one isolated factor. So you take the company's main BU, which is core, grow 29%. You have the other BUs, which today represent less in the total, but with very important growth of over 50%. So BUs that we're encouraging growth, looking at investments. So those are also leverages for growth. You take the mature portfolio, will grow 27%. with launches. I think everyone noticed in Wilburson how ready we are for bringing novelties and the potential for that, a growth of 61% and a need for renewal. The addressable market for new launches this year, but plus another 450 million of addressable market. So I think those are numbers and indicators that are very expressive, super relevant for that delivery. Of course, with the sales dynamic plus the operational performance, which was also highlighted in Milton's presentation, there are gains in margin, gains in results. The company's gross margin, we have been highlighting in the last quarters, we go from 31 and are about, well, the EBITDA margin goes from 15 to 25. And once again, I think it's a solid conquest in the 9 months of 2024. And obviously all of that becomes, cash flow and the main and converts into cash. And here I would highlight that we're talking about 60 days in reduction of inventory and highlighting all of that aligning within the company. I think this is more just to illustrate the performance. So the growth of revenue is the main highlight. When in that first perspective from 2023, the company goes above 15%. This is a period which also includes the pandemic. I think the pandemic took some of the references from the sector in terms of what is recurrent, sustainable in terms of volume and price. And in some moments, some sectors produce being more favorable, and in some others with more negative impact. But well, we've been over that phase. We're in 24 now. 24 is accelerated growth. The company in LTM at 1.7, so improved growth than the entire period. And once again, the portfolio matures and grows, and the other BUs also volume and price. But retail, aesthetics, and plasma actually, those are our other BUs, and with lower participation of the company. So the company being more focused on the private than public, but also, as Marcelo said, it will continue to assess opportunities in the public market as long as they are competitive opportunities and attractive opportunities. And here are the numbers and indicators to demonstrate the graph. Another example of executive consistency. I think Bergamo's case explains this very much. If by the end, when we integrate in the second quarter of 23, Bergamo has impacted the company's results and consolidated results, then we're able to outdo that evolution. So what was Bergamo? Bergamo was a business unit in an entire universe. So a company, a multinational biotech company, focused on its focus is not there. So it made the decision to divest. But for us, it's a very high quality asset that brings opportunities. And the first moment was limited because since Bergamo was in Angie's universe, it used to share resources, processes, systems, and also administrative structure. So of course, an opportunity like this won't be profitable, won't bring us return. So we advanced in this process of integration. According to the limitations in the first 6 months, we still had to, we were still dependent on the MG model, and starting 2024, we start accelerating that. So we implement SAP in the back office presentation, and that synergy, which is more obvious in an M&A project process. And of course, Marcelo highlighted the secret is transferring the location where we make Blau products so we can use the productive capacity at Bergamo. But obviously, there's a path forward. So 9 months, and there's still an opportunity to capture, which takes Bergamo to the same level of margin that the other Blau plants have. So total use of productive capacity and operational excellency.
Just to illustrate graphically, Bergamo's gross margin of 2% impacting the company's consolidated margins. Of course, the Blau ex Bergamo operation has also advanced. And here you can see the evolution of 15 points ever since we started. We're already at 17. And then in the 9 months later, considering that we have about half of the path left, the idea is to reach by the end of 2025 with this plant at the same level as Blau. We're almost there. So here is the secret to success. Of course, this is a results generating leverage for the company's results. And also in terms of returns, I think this is always an issue, especially for a company that is investing relevantly in recurrent ways. So this is an evolution of the last few years and the results of the accumulated last 9 months, which I think shows the consistency of results in 24. So as a highlight, if you have a generation of operational cash flow, it comes from, well, 9 months of 24 of bringing back those results. So the company has come in a process of delivering quarter by quarter a increase of these results, or here, if in the past, in the pandemic, we increased our stock today with a more efficient process of internal efficiency. We have the highlight of reducing the company's revenue and also cash generation. Tax efficiency, I think it would be important to talk about. We're talking about JCP, and we also have opportunities of Bergamo, given that we have a important cash. So all of this cash flow generation was enough to accommodate irrelevant capex which the company invested in the last few years, because that's the business. The cycle of pharmaceuticals are relevant investments to then find returns, to achieve returns in the future, something which can always be achieved. So it's 1 billion over the last 7 years, but we still have a cash generation for shareholders. And the highlight in the 9 months of 24 is 117 million, and a peak in the for the company in the last few years. So really consistent performance, which has accommodated the company's investments and EBITDA cash conversion. So here, if we look at this, it's the best, it's the company's best moment, strong cash flow conversion and operational returns. And then on the returns, I think Marcelo mentioned the cycles of the company and constant transformation. Till 2019, this company was a company that delivered results, and then it achieved what could be the maximum point of return for the last cycle. So it's a company, as everyone remembers, we had a very dependent and concentrated business model, which was concentrated on few clients and products. So the recurrent factor sustainability of this business is not as good. So that's why we joined this new cycle and transformed the company, especially investing in launching new products and moving into new markets. It's natural that in a relevant cycle of investment, your ROIC for the ROIC of the company drops, but we are in a cycle of investment. So returns come in the future as the investments start maturing and kicking in. So you'll look at the drop here, and there we see the increase again with an improvement of results in 24, and with some products, especially the launches, which already contribute to the company's results. We're at 11% there. So we're at the beginning of a marathon. So just to simplify the exercise, I think we have indications here, but what if I remove or adjust what invested capital means from these other initiatives that don't contribute to date? What is the company's ROIC level? So if we take or don't disconsider capital from Prothea, Maros, and Latam, because Latam also, even though there are established operations, We are also building new branches, moving into new branches. This has a maturing curve. So Bergamo itself is we're at the beginning of that R&D process. So monoclonal antibodies, we're investing in products that will be launched in 2018. Permio, the capex that was there until now, and P400, where we're going to launch the products in verticalization. So the adjusted 11 became 26, and that shows you the resilience and the strength of the company's business, even for mature products. The consolidated is mature, but we also have a secondary company inside Blau for new business, as Marcelo usually says we have a startup in there that has a lot of potential for return on investments for shareholders. Financial discipline and solidity, we always like to highlight. It's very important to say this. It allowed the company, even in 2023, in a cycle of generating results that were less favorable, beat the record for investments. I think that's the main message that we want to take away in terms of allocation of capital. So it's a company with very solid finances. And here you can see cash basically buffers the debt with a low level of leverage. And I think moving forward, that's how things will go. The discipline that we have in allocating capital will continue, but it's important to highlight the company has enough breadth to move forward. So that means that during a strategic opportunity, or if we want to speed up or accelerate investment, that is allowed, even in cases of high interest rates in the country. The company has low levels of leverage, but the discipline of allocating capital continues to be the company's DNA. What would be our allocation priorities? So if we're talking specifically about monoclonal antibodies, which is the company's main strategic project, which is going to change the company's level. Of course, cash generation of the company will accommodate this flow of investment and won't decrease the rhythm of these investments. So the same is valid for our pipeline. Wilbur tells you about the increase in capacity for delivering new projects, and also the productive capacity. If I'm launching products and the market's growing, I need to add in more. I think the key to success here is that there will neither capacity will neither be leftovers or missing in that capital allocation without leveraging the company's or committing the company's leverage. Another theoretic exercise here, exercise of sensitivity, just to tell you about the MABs. So basically the approachable market of 6 billion. To the left, you'll see what the market share is and also what the conversion of revenue is. At any point, the company, if you say the company has 30% market share and converts 60%, then what is the potential for generating revenue? And on the other end, what's the impact for results? So imagine participation in revenue here and margin potential here. We know these are high added value products where we consequentially expect a better margin than the rest of the portfolio at the company. So that would be a margin potential considering the company continues at the 40% of consolidated margin. Another theoretical exercise and an assessment of our sensitivities. So here to close the presentation, I think I can close on this tone. Milton mentioned, I think he told us the results very well. So the increase in capacity to support the demand by up till 2028. And after 2028, we start looking at the Pernambuco plant. What's the Pernambuco plant? Well, with the approach of our productive capacity by 2028, we have the conditions to look at the schedule and take a deeper breath so we can implement it as needed. We don't have to invest all at once. We can invest in parcels. And if we're talking about 1.2 billion of investment, this will be diluted out throughout 9 years. The idea by 2026 is to have a packaging line in operation in Pernambuco, which allows us to leverage the tax cuts and deliver those lines by 2032. The rationale between Pernambuco doesn't change. We're not talking just about a plant to increase our productive capacity. We're talking about producing products which we don't produce today in our plants that are in the company's pipeline. This plant will already be built in a different methodology to obtain international certification. We're going to access the European and North American market. That's why it's so important. And in the concept of centralizing our production units and also increasing productivity, gain in scale of gross margin, and finally also you'll see the tax cuts that we leverage. So that's the rationale behind Pernambuco and why we need to do it. But Pernambuco will be built following the necessary schedule to reach the company's demand. Okay, I'm gonna stop here. I think I'll call Mateus up for the closing and also repeating the main messages from the event. Thank you. Well, we start with Marcelo, who tells us about
Marcelo
the
talking about
short
the
and
short and
long-term
long
strategy at the
term
company.
strategy, and he always talks about the transformation that's more structural in the company in the last few years, as well as the capacity to adapt to challenges that are going to appear. Um, and then we get into Amaru, which is from the commercial team, right? So here it's not about the growth in one quarter or another, but sustainable long-term growth. And it shows that we're really close to the client and the entire health sector and community, and we've been increasing and diversifying our portfolio. And all of this intends to sustain our leadership in the hospital sector, as well as increase our competitive advantage. And all of this is based on solid fundamentals in our sector. So now we're getting to R&D with Wilberson, and here you can see the entry door to the new uh, systems in the company, right? Um, so uh, whether it's a monoclonal antibody or new products, or the production of an API that would give us a better competitive advantage. So you need a truckload of cash, let's say, right? And that's where we really search for strategic partnerships to be able to help fund this. And so when we get into the industrial aspects, as you've seen with Milton here, you can see this mantra that really intends to service our demands in the next years, right? So in the long term, we want to really centralize all of our production in Brazil, um, extracting the maximum potential in all these factories, having cutting edge technological support. And so this is to service the local and international markets. And when we get into the international markets globally, you saw with Roberto that we were focusing on the Protea opportunity. And then here, basically, we want to access new markets, but not only access them, but just really be competitive, diluting costs, gaining scale opportunities, and really play to win. And of course, this international expansion levers our growth and reduces our exposure to local risks. And besides all of this, you have the verticalization of plasma as well. And all of this is going to be sustained by financial solidity, as you've seen with Douglas, and he showed us this cash generation part, the potential returns on to investors and shareholders, and it's a company that's already generating cash on a lot of investments that are still in development phases. So you can imagine the potential return from this company when these investments start maturing. And of course, we've been always reinforcing capital allocation that should be responsible. And I've been really focusing on this point with investors. Blau is one of the very few cases in the capital markets in Brazil that aligns growth and low leverage. This is not such a common combo, but the big message here that's sticking around is after this event, we hope you guys have the conviction to understand that this scenario is going to continue, that Blau will continue to grow and keep up with this low leverage condition. With this, we're going to end the presentation and we'll hop into Q&A while the team starts organizing things here. We have the MZ team helping us with the microphones, and we're not going to prioritize anyone. Everyone that's open to questions can, and we have 2 questions, I think, already. So just a quick pause here so we can structure the scenario. Thanks. Is that working? Okay, great. So the first question here comes from Emerson at Goldman Sachs. So we're kind of following this order here. Great. Good morning, everyone. I'm Emerson at Goldman Sachs, and I have 2 that are more short-term questions, which is really when it comes to production, it was very clear that you guys have a project for expansion, your capacity, and transfer of this to other plants. But currently, there's also this point on sales ruptures, which is what Amado mentioned, and I want to understand if what's the sales potential that would be unleashed with this expansion in capacity and this production transfer among plants? That's the first question. And the second one is about your price dynamic in your mature portfolio. So it grew about 27% revenue in the last 9 months, but in the presentation, we saw that the volume grew around 30 from the hospital market. So I wanted to understand how you're looking at this price portfolio, and also an update on the discussion with the extension of patents in regards to the extension of the uh, patents that had fallen through due to this intellectual property law in Brazil. But when you look at the pipeline for the company, what's the existing overlap um, when it comes to the changes in the law? So in regards to the back orders that the company has, we've got approximately 12 to 15% as back orders that we replenish every month, and but we always end up having like 12 to 15%. So we can't really assess if when you have about the 12 or 15% that month, if this would be recurrent for the entire year. So it's kind of difficult to assess, but we would calculate about 12 to 15%. And when you ask about volume and price, the mature market is a lot more competitive. So the biggest initiative that Bao worked on was having good negotiations with new suppliers, alternative suppliers, an increase in our productive capacity, which helped us to have operational gains with the size of the batches as well. And so the gains we have the capacity to be more aggressive. And so with this, we see this as a differential. And we understand Blau's strong point is its productive capacity. In the first issuance of debentures, we bought a lot of equipment. We started receiving it in 2021, 22. and these are actually producing major productive capacity, and that really shifted the industrial park in the industrial network in the company. So on patents, I'll pass this on to Wilberson. When it comes to the scenario, um, the modification in Article 40 of the intellectual property law brought in major challenges. Uh, this change, I think, really favors the possibilities to expand access and can really place their products in the market when these patents are actually within a legal time frame are expiring. Um, so when you consider the company's pipeline, you understand how it was affected. So the monoclonal antibodies didn't have any level of impact. Actually, the company overall, in a very solid manner and consistent manner, has been strongly working towards fighting some patent extensions when it comes to this monoclonal antibody atmosphere so that there's no excessive extensions and so that we can reach the market when the patents by law expire. And so this is a scenario we have strong work with, and we're keeping our eyes open to the new model with patents for authentication use, where you have a molecule, the patent expires, but the major holders of these technologies are really looking to protect these new indications within a group of indications for one drug, and the role of this together with the health authorities as well, so that the products don't end up losing the time frame as well. So our focus is to start off with projects that are still protected by patents, right? And that's where we can actually get the opportunity to be one of the first players in the country. So, of course, in Latin America, we're already present as well. So we have a real active performance in the region, right? So whenever there's a new request for a patent extension, we already come through with INPI, and we already have presented other arguments to fight that. So we already do this during the development phase to protect ourselves. So actually, just recently they removed a extension request from Stellata. So we understand that the legal environment also contributes to the drop of Article 40, and so that you can have reversals in these decisions. Yeah. Today we have a intellectual property law that is sovereign. And although some major pharmaceutical companies are going to try to extend their patents, this horizon that the legal framework brings in within the country is really to expand access to drugs and make sure this is more aligned with the expiry of the original patent, right, which is the pipeline model here. Okay, thank you guys. Very clear. Good morning. This is Mauricio Cepeda from Morgan Stanley. I have three questions. The first one is about this new PDP trend, right? Is there a list of a priority list of these drugs? If this was already done and how you're positioned, or if you guys would have to transfer technology as well, because in the previous years, the multinationals also had major advantages because of the transfer issues. Then you have the MABs, and would this in some way change the marketing and commercial structures you guys have? If you're going to have medical promotion, you're going to have to structure the access or do something differently. And the third is about the APIs, the synthetic APIs that were mentioned. And if you guys have in some way worked on a renewal synthesis, or means since it's already a real consolidated market, in China and India, and if your synthetic API will have some kind of a different technological differential, setting you as at this advantage point in the international scenario. Well, thank you, Mauricio, for the questions. We're going to start off with the PDP scenario. In July, we had the publication of the new legal milestone and framework, and then we also had the local innovation and development program. And this program, differently than the prior years, you didn't really have like a list of molecules of products. So the government's looking at technological platforms and how this can lever access to drugs in the country, and how this could also, through non reimbursable investments, really encourage the development within the country. So Blau today is a candidate. Um, we have a group of programs for local development, and these executive projects were already submitted to the Ministry of Health. Now we're getting into a final phase for assessment and selection, but this has been, if we are selected, we can receive about 500 million reais for the local programs on development and innovation that could be uh, transferred to PDPs eventually and lead to sales for the public sector. And within this, we have an important monoclonal antibody. And so when we talk about synthetic APIs, um, within the institutional market, Blau has major capacity for injectable drugs, and we talked about what we consider the synthetic APIs, that we consider the red to fill, and we don't bring in innovative technology in regards to these APIs, but we do have a horizon of producing some APIs of some products we already have, and with this lead to margin gains and protect the company towards important groups of injectable products that already exist, and also new molecules that are not in the company's portfolio. The other question is about go to market. And for sure, it's going to be a more senior group, um, where you have opinion leaders and you have to really try to use strategy and convincing. And so it's going to be a different strategy, but the final consumption point is really just convincing the physician to use our product. But of course, we're all going to overcome this challenge, and will also bring in access. So all of the drugs Blau launches, we increase access to, right? I talked about this previously, where when we add this product in the market, we're either gaining market share, and there are a lot of products that also inspired patents where we actually increase the size of the market, right? And expanded access. Good morning. This is I wanted to know if you could confirm the prices for immunoglobulins, as you can mention, and if you could also work on a comparison of the prices and current volumes. And also, I would like to know if this pipeline of aesthetic products for R&D considers especially botulinum toxins, and with these Botox products, you would stop importing or exporting through third parties as it is done today. And what would be the expected amount of these products? Well, thanks for the question. And as yeah, the prices of immunoglobulin. Well, thankfully, Blau is losing its immunodependence or immunoreliance, and the company has a lot less reliance. Um, um, So since the company grew in other areas, although this product is increasing its volumes compared to last year, we continue to reduce its importance in our business, and that's what's so important to highlight. The other thing is competitive advantage. So the market's still quite competitive in immunoglobulin, and I think the company's biggest strategy is go to market with a mix of products that can help us be competitive. So we still have a pretty big price war, and especially in the last few periods where um, the Brazilian currency lost value, right? So it's a very competitive market, but as I mentioned, the company is selling more than last year. The third question is about botulinum toxins, and Blau has a international partnership. Since this is immunoglobulin is a product that already comes in ready, we have about 35 or 40% of this product, and we're also expanding this portfolio with products that are produced by Blau. When we talk about R&D, we're talking about products that we're developing in-house with our technology, and the idea is that we'll produce this 100%. So it's not the toxin that we plan to produce in Brazil specifically. All right. Thank you for the presentation. Good morning. This is Samuel Alves. These are two questions on plasma. First, about Prothea. If you could work on an exercise of how the deliverables have been versus the budget, and also the expected date for the break even, that would be the first question. And secondly, if you could talk about Imaris a bit more. Just like an update, how many collection centers exist? What's the pipeline you expect for these centers in 2025? And just to get a better feel on the MRS expansion plan. Okay, thank you for the question. In regards to Prothea and performance in the company, we this year, 2024, I can say it wasn't an easy year. We had an indication of a CEO that did not end up being the ideal name. Let's say we had a misalignment from the CEO and the board, and the CEO ended up leaving the company, which generated a loss of focus in the turnaround. So that's basically the idea, right? So it could be that sometimes you don't have the best decision possible, or the decision when you made it, you understood it was the best, but then eventually you recognize that it wasn't the best. And so then the best way to do this would be to correct this, right? So if you get the wrong bus, maybe you're closer to get back than to continue walking, right? So Protea, and this year we understand that it's going to be a pretty flat year, let's say, and our expectation is that it's probably going to be like a year ahead from compared to the turnaround, right? So things are progressing. The operational improvements continue to progress. There have been significant progresses in the uh, profitability increases. So in our roadmap, we consider it to be in line with what was planned. But with this CEO gap, we see that so far we're in this process we to have this turnaround. And so he's, as the CEO of the company, handling all of this. And alongside this, we're working on the search for the CEO at Protea, right? So Imaris, it has 3 centers under operation. Um, then we're also in the end of the construction of this refurbishing at the center. And we understand that for next year, we'll have the opening of another center at the floor in the Florida region. So it's going to be really close to Miami, and we're searching for a new center to redirect this more towards the north of Florida. And how do we search this? Well, you look at demographics, you look at local competitors, the field of performance, and if you have a public with a socioeconomic profile, considering the average income or cultural profile, and you can see if it's really the adequate profile public, and so um, also understanding if there's any competitors you're going to cannibalize on. So you're not going to open up like where there's a Burger King, you open up a McDonald's right next door. No, we want to keep a healthy distance, right? So when we see this distance, we've actually seen very interesting locations. But then when we see this, we say, well, I'm in this area. We kind of stop and look for a new center. So with a lot of capital allocation responsibility, we know that interests are pretty high. People are already talking about two, 2.5, and we have to be very responsible when we select these locations for the opening of new centers. Well, Felipe Amancio here from Itaú BBA. We have two questions. First, and so we want to understand what's the idea for this company when it comes to financial leverage and how the new investments like AP 1000, the expectations for higher interest rates, and should also influence this structure in the next years. And then the second question is about the public market. You talked about how growth has been supported by the private market, especially, although a few years ago it was a different scenario. But how are you looking at the public market today in the company strategy? Is this still on the radar, or will the focus to still be in the private sector? Well, I want to start off with leverage. And so when you look at the capital allocation, what we're saying is um, it's going to also consider 450 million. It's not going to be about who arrives first is going to take it, but we're talking about defining priorities. They're projects that are very relevant, and we're going to work on this capex and help it really fit in to the company's cash generation. So we're always going to coexist with this low leverage, but of course we want to take a look at this, and that won't keep the company from looking at a possible M&A opportunity. We're not talking about a transformational M&A. We're just saying that maybe it'll make more sense to buy a portfolio of products to increment the other business units, which could lead the leverage in the company to go to like zero something. But of course, the company will always have the option to deleverage, right? So we would coexist pretty well close to one, but the idea is not to get there unless you actually have a project that makes sense to work with initially and to advance in this direction. Well, on the question on public bids, and I wanted to remind you that SUS is one of the biggest projects, social projects in the world. And for sure, Blau wants to be inserted into this market. So it's a, and so what was missing was really the beginning of uh, unfair competition. And in this case, with alpha peptide, we had to lower our prices a lot. We lost margins. With immunoglobulin, we also came from a situation that for a few years the bids were and kind of being favorable for these non-registered products. But in the beginning of this year, we were able to end this. But unfortunately, we weren't competitive. We didn't have the necessary competitiveness to be able to service such an intense price war. So as we mentioned, we went through the pandemic. We had a imbalance in pricing, and we hope we can get back to our competitive advantage, especially with immunoglobulin. Uh, which is a big possibility for business in the future. And so we also have the alpha for dead margins and other drugs that we're going to start selling to SUS, the public health system in Brazil, with major quantities. And so we'll also start selling other drugs to them. And this is a market we're always going to be interested in. Um, and so some of them are already in the public health system, SUS, and we've been producing them locally, will be a lot more competitive. Besides all of this, recently we also had a law that prevailed and provides privileges to whoever produces in the country. And so you have greater safety and security with this margin of about 5%. And so that also helps with public competition as well in the future and public bids. Good morning, everyone. Congratulations on the visit. It's a little low here, but we have three questions here that are pretty quick. The first one is to explore the launches, the recent launches, and understanding where is the market share of these new products and how this ramp has been performing. And the second point is to look at how competition's doing and how you guys are facing this when you launch products in your core categories. And I wanted to also get a feel about this and understand what would be capex, how much was already invested, what we should see in the future, rates of return, and also understanding how much you guys could recover from these investments due to licenses in the current licenses and future licenses. Okay, a pretty complete question, maybe one of the most complex of all. So we're going to try to be giving you a better, we're going to give you an explanation on this, but I don't have these numbers off the top of my head because there are many different molecules. Each molecule has its own costs and each one has different levels of investments or differentiated costs. So each one has a different clinical trial format, another has a different market value, and so really with the license out market. So depending on which market we're reaching with this product. So as Wilbert mentioned, we have possibilities for partnerships in Brazil and with the public-private partnerships that work on risk investments. We have about 500 million reais alongside them to help with development. These are high values for investment and development. When you consider this, of course, you have a value that we can't necessarily measure, which is the value of intelligence, as Robertson mentioned. We've been working with this for 20 years. And we have this, the value of our knowledge and our experience, but the investments are really big. And as Douglas mentioned, and Wilberson did as well, so each of the molecules have costs. You have molecules that cost 150 million, 250 million, and the biggest costs are in the clinical trials because we're forced to buy reference drugs.
And the best added value in the cost of the clinical study is the reference medication. So the reference drug. So that's where most of our costs are. So it's a high cost because of the situation. Now, the return on invested capital, every molecule has a different return, and it also depends a lot on the license out that we're starting to capture. So if we capture that, there's a chance that we can also, well, not invest anything because we were able to capture everything we needed with license out. So it depends a lot on our competency now to be able to bring interested parties to invest together with us and develop the drug with us. I think that's very important. I wasn't able to code the numbers. As I said, it's a very complex question, but I think we can do a case by case and share more important information on every drug. And also, we can continue considering 10% of investment of revenue to R&D even with the MABs in that percentage, remembering that part of that is capitalized and part goes to results. I think that's the best guidance we could give. Does anyone else have a question? If not, before we would remember that today we had no free samples. We had a free sample of gel clair, but we didn't have any prizes. Prizes are different than free samples. I learned that from Erica at the lab. And why did we choose this? Because we want a different approach here. We want a more ESG bias. So instead of giving you, you know, prizes, free prizes that you get at a bunch of events, we're going to convert that value. Probably a bit more expensive, but we're going to donate that to the Pequeno Príncipe Hospital. It's an institution we helped in the past and will help once again. I'd like to thank everyone for coming, all of those present with us in person as well as the online participants. And Marcelo, maybe for some closing remarks. Well, I want to once again thank everyone and say that we at the company are very excited. As we always say, we're just getting started, and there's so many investments the company is doing, but there are a lot of paths for growth. So geographies, license in, license out, Prothea, Emabus, monoclonal antibodies. So it's a startup that is, in evolving in the business. All of the pharma and the new portfolio of synthetics as well. We've invested like never before, and this is just the beginning. As Douglas mentioned in the ROIC slide, we are literally just starting because we haven't appropriated anything yet. So thank you. Thanks for your trust. It's a startup that generates cash flow. Exactly.